Assalamu alaikum students. In our last lecture we have discussed communication process. Today we will going to discuss perspective in communication process. First of all, we will talk about what is perspective. We all come to each communication exchange with our own filters through which we see the world, the person we are communicating with, the situation, the topic we are communicating about. These filters means that we don't always start with the same perspective as the person we are communicating with. Our individual perceptions are the filters through which we communicate with each other. Mean to say that our own perception are the filters through which we communicate with others. Mean to say that if we see some incident, then we perceive if two people, for example, two people see the same incident and when they explain it separately, their ideas, their words, their communication will be different. It's because of filter. Because some people has less negativity and some has more negativity. Some has positivity, more positivity, and some has less positivity. It's because of our perception कि जो चीज़ हमने परसीव की उसको नेक्स्ट हम जाके कैसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. अगर हमारे अंदर नेगेटिविटी बहुत ज़्यादा है तो हम उसको उसी वे में एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, कम्युनिकेट करेंगे दूसरों के साथ. अगर पॉजिटिविटी ज़्यादा है तो उसी सेम इंसिडेंट को हम बड़े अच्छे तरीके से प्रेजेंट करेंगे. So the next point is in perspective in communication, visual perceptions. We have already talked about visual perception, that if we are going to talk about the same incidents in two different aspects, then what will be the situation? Two people explain the same incident in two ways. Visual perceptions, here these filters can be visual, as in the famous in figure 2. What do you see? What you look at the picture, a young woman and an old crone. Both perspectives are possible and both are valid. Here you can see a picture, image. Now it's your perception. How can you perceive this picture? If you want to see, we are saying the young woman turned away from us with just a hint of profile visible. Eyelashes and nose, we can see chin and la line. Choker necklace. We see the old woman in profile. In this profile, we see the old woman. It seems her chin is tucked down into her chest. Right eyelashes and left eyelashes. Large hook nose with wart on it. Mouth and chin we can see. These are the two perspectives of the same figure. Figure 3 reveals the two perspectives. Both of the perspectives representing the young and the old women are valid. Mean to say that you can see here, you can see in this picture, in this image, you can perceive that she is a young lady, young woman, and she is an old lady, old woman. It's your perception, but the images are same. Both of the perspectives represent the young and the old women are valid. They are simply two different ways of seeing the same thing. As we have already discussed, if you see the same incident, you can explain it individually by your own perception. जैसा आपने perceive किया है वैसा ही आप उसे explain करेंगे. We cannot decide that one does not exist just because we don't see it. We have to recognize that there is more than one way to perceive in the picture. Just like there is really more than one way to see any situations we encounter. Next, third point in perspective of communication is language. Language, the different perspective we experience can be the language as well. How many times have you received an email that seemed to have a certain tone to it, and the perception of the tone colored the way that you might have responded? The same words can have very different meaning depending on how we interpret them. Here is another example. What's the meaning of the following phrase? A woman without her man is nothing. Here you can see and judge this example. A woman without her man is nothing. Sound pretty bad at first glance, does not it? Look again. If you add punctuation or change the word's emphasis, how does the meaning change? A woman, comma, without her, comma, man is nothing. As you can see, the words are same, sentence same, but by using the punctuation and by using the pitch and fall on stress and unstressed pattern on the pronunciation of these sentence change its meaning. The words were the same in both cases, but the meaning has now changed completely. So although we think our meaning may be clear when we use specific words in a certain order, we can't always be certain that the other person will read or hear them in the way. And the fourth point of perspective in communication, other factors affecting our perspective. So here we can see which type of factors affect on our perspective. First one, there are multitude of other factors that can affect our perspective, thereby affecting how can we communicate with another person. Some of these factors come from our past experience, our prejudice, our feelings, and our environment. These are the four basic factors that affect our perspective in communication. Some of these will be discussed in greater detail in the later chapter. First one is past experiences. Imagine that you are in a meeting where you will be discussing change in your personal policies at work. इसको हम पहले ऐसे डिस्कस कर लेंगे कि पास्ट एक्सपीरियंसेस को, कि सपोज अगर आपने किसी फर्म में जॉब की है, ठीक है, आप वहाँ से आपका एक्सपीरियंस है कि आप अगर बात करते थे, आपकी जो भी पॉलिसी होती थी, जो भी आपका माइंड मैप होता था, आप एक्सप्लेन करते थे, तो समटाइम बॉस आपको अप्रिशिएट करता था, समटाइम आपको डिग्रेड कर देता था। तो उस एक्सपीरियंस की बना पे आप नेक्स्ट जिस भी फर्म में, जिस कंपनी में जॉब करने जा रहे हैं, वहाँ पे अगर आपके पास कोई वैलिड पॉइंट भी है तो वो वहाँ पे आप हाईलाइट नहीं करेंगे। इट्स बिकॉज ऑफ योर personality, it's because of your aspect, it's because of your perception that you perceive in your environment, through your study, through your experience. Your past experience was bitter, so you can't explain it anymore. So imagine that you are in a meeting where you will be discussing changing in your personal policies at work. What will be the bringing to that conversation? You might have examples of another company's personal policies. You might have examples from your own time in the company that demonstrate why you feel that certain changes might need to be made. Or you might come to the table empty handed with just a pad of paper and a pen in order to take notes. यानी कि आप बिल्कुल ब्लैंक माइंड के साथ आए हैं कि आपने कोई भी चीज ऑब्जर्व नहीं की, आपके पास कोई भी एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, ना है आप उसे एक्सप्लेन करना चाहते हैं. What will influence you to do any of these feelings? Your past experience. You would bring outside information because you have learned in the past that comparing situations can be helpful in decision making. You bring examples of your own experiences because you have learned in the past that example can be powerful ways to make your own case. Or you come to the table empty-handed because in the past you have felt that your input was not valued. जैसे कि हम पहले बात कर चुके हैं कि आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करने की बात थी, आपके पास जो भी वैल्यू थी, इनपुट था, वो उसकी कोई वैल्यू नहीं थी. So you are going here only empty-handed or empty mind, or you have not past experience in this topic, and so you are clean slate information wise. और past में आपके पास उस information के बारे में कोई भी उस topic के बारे में कोई भी information नहीं थी, कोई भी experience नहीं है, so you are a blank slate here without any information. So in every one of these situations, your communication is being affected by your past experience. You enter a situation, a meeting or a conversation with certain expectations of what will happen in that scenario, and you behave accordingly. Of course, sometimes you want your past experiences to influence your future communication. For example, when your team respond positively to the sale tactics you put in place, those same or similar tactics can certainly be successful again. Here you can see the image of a company. Next, prejudice. Why you are going to prejudice? We all have prejudices. They occur when we take our past experience with a person and assumes that the same type of experience will happen with all people who are the similar to the first. Prejudices are partly due to culture and partly due to the personal preferences or experiences. Not all prejudices involve a negative characteristics either. For example, you could consider all of one group to be smart. Past experience resulting affect the Your past experience and resulting affect the sharing, resulting affect your. So your past experience and result affecting on communication. Your boss has reacted negatively when you have discussed this topic in the past. You hesitated to discuss the topic even when it is necessary for your work. It's the result of your past experience. Your coworker has forgotten important information multiple times in the past. You assume he or she will forget the information this time, and so you overload him or her with reminders. Got the idea? Your boss ignored your idea in the last meeting. You don't bring another idea that could have made an impact. It's the experience of your last time meeting. You got nervous last time you had gave presentation, and the result of this past experience, you start out even more nervous on your next presentation. The group reacted well to your last sales pitch. You use a similar style for your next sales pitch. The last 20 customers rejected your new product. You fail, and the result of this experience is you fail to offer that product on 21st customers and beyond, some of whom may have wanted the product. The last email you received from a colleague was rude. You perceived it as rude. You sent a rude email in return. Your subordinate was disagreeable the last time you asked him to work out overtime. You don't ask him this time, even though he would agree. It's the result of an influence of your past experiences communication. The problem with prejudice is when they start to influence how or to whom we communicate. To get an idea of how this could be happening in your workplace, consider how you might complete the phrases below. If you can't think of the way to complete it from your own experiences, complete each phrase with a stereotype that you might have heard in the past. For example, you can complete this phrase by using your own past experiences. Prejudice occurs when we take an isolated experiences with one type of person and then act as if all encounters in future with the people of the same type or with the same characteristics will result in the same experiences. When we categorize people like this, we eliminate their individuality. If you are communicating to the person through a perceived prejudice or stereotype, at a very least, you are greatly limiting the chances of your communication being successful or producing the desired result. At the most, you are alienating or resulting or insulting someone with whom you are trying to build a working relationship. Your goal should be to see each person as an individual that is separate from any preconceived notions you might have about them. It takes practice, but would not you like to be seen and communicated with as individual and not as a sum of different labels that can be placed on you? Feelings? And the next point of the perspective in communication is feelings. For this area of influence, there are actually two ways in which your feelings can influence your communication with another person. The first simply refer to the way that you feel on a given day. If you feel well, you will communicate in one way, and if you feel ill, you will communicate in another. Since your well-being fluctuates, it makes sense that the way you can communicate will change somewhat with how well you are feeling. If you find yourself experiencing difficulty in communicating due to an illness or other physical stressor, recognizing and acknowledging it when appropriate can be very helpful when others might interpret the change in your communication as having something to do with them. The second aspect is related to the feelings refer to how you feel about a specific person. When you genuinely like someone, the way you communicate is going to show it. Unfortunately, the same can be said for when you don't like someone. However, as you continue learning about effective communication skills in the following chapters, you will find some tools to help you be as effective as possible in communicating, even when it's with someone that you dislike. And the next point is an environment. The last area of the influence on your communication is your environment. Environment, all of us communicate differently in different environment. This is a simple enough to observe in everyday life. Do you speak to your colleagues the same way that you to do your friends? Is it possible? Do you use a formal way in front of your boss or informal way? Do you talk to a stranger with more or less formality than people you know well? Do you talk to your subordinates the same way when your own boss is there as you do when she is not there? As you go through your workday, notice how where you are, what is going on, and who else is present may be impacting the way that you communicate. Recognizing how the environment might be affecting those others you communicate with is a skill that can come in handy for you, particularly when you perceive that the environment is having a negative impact on your ability to communicate effectively with someone. These skills will help you to perceive why someone might be communicating in the way that they are. It will also give you a factor that you can alter in order to make the person more comfortable or establish a level of formality that you feel is important in a particular situation. So this is all about the perspective in communication. In it, we have discussed environment, feelings, prejudice, and past experience. So these are the elements, these are the aspects of perspective in communication. Different perspective. Next, we will talk about elements of communication, inshallah. Thank you so much. Okay, Allah Hafiz.